my quirky carrots. So we're officially about 2 weeks into the format, which means things are starting to settle down. However, it's pretty obvious that Spright is quite literally the best deck, and if you're one of those people wondering, well, I'm really struggling to beat Spright, so today we're going to talk about some cool little techs that you may already have known of, and some techs that you might have literally never thought of to help you beat Spright.
And in case you missed it, both Logan and myself are playing Spright. You can go check it out in Let's Top Locals. We've both been playing this deck since release, so I think it's safe to say we know a little bit of what we're talking about.
Just a little bit. We will also be announcing the winner for the giveaway for the box of Power of the Elements, so make sure your listening ears are on because you could be the winner in this video. But as always, before we get into all that, make sure you subscribe to the channel, join the sub squad, hit the notification bell, like the video, and feel free to leave your comment what you think of some of these techs. And if you have a spicy tech that we don't know about for how to beat Spright, feel free to put it in the comments because it's hard to find some techs all the time when the deck's really good and plays through 87 hand traps and just doesn't die.
So with all that being said, let's move on to the first topic of discussion, and that is Deck Devastation Virus.
Yeah.
So many people talked about this card on the release of Spright. It saw a lot of play. However, Deck Devi is also one of those cards where even though it's a trap card, it's one of those cards you have to draw. And not only do you have to draw this card, you also have to be able to set up a board that can meet the requirements. 2000 attack Dark Monster. Sometimes I know a lot of decks have moved away from hand traps, but in the event that you go against one of those players that is playing a ton of hand traps, you sometimes can't get to that, and Deck Devi turns out to be one of those dead cards.
Yeah, something about a non-searchable trap that you have to play through can sometimes not come in as clutch as you think it might.
And at that, even though Deck Devastation might get rid of a lot of the Spright monsters, a lot of these Spright builds are still going to opt to play the Brave package. These are cards you can't hit. It still allows them going second, activate right, grab Griffin Rider, Draco back, bounce a card, attack over 2 things. Like, it's still a really strong engine that you have to watch out for, and Deck Devi doesn't cover that.
However, with that being said, we're going to talk about 2 trap cards that aren't just something you have to draw in order to have be live.
I'm sure this is no surprise, but this is Mischief of the Yokai and Mischief of the Gnomes.
A lot of mischievousness going on here.
Both of these cards are effectively cards that you can mill if you're playing something like Tier Limits, if you're playing the Punk strategy, anything that can make Chaos Rule or Zombie Vampire.
Crazy.
And these cards basically do the same thing, even though they have different text. They just manipulate levels of cards. However, Mischief of the Gnomes does have the effect in the graveyard where once you banish it, every monster in your opponent's hand is reduced by 1 level even after it's summoned. So a lot of these Spright cards, they require level 2s on board to continually special themselves, and they're level 1s.
Damn. You know, the rank 2 deck does need 2s. That's kind of a wild concept. Imagine if they
want 2s.
In our honest opinion here, the only difference between Yokai and Gnomes is that Yokai comes ultimate rare, and you know how rarity sickness can be.
Also, in reality, Gnomes is just kind of the better card. It just covers more, doesn't hit just one monster, whereas Yokai is specific to one monster. So Gnomes is just kind of more well-known. Now, you've probably already heard of these last 3 cards, so these probably aren't like super surprising, but just in case you've been under a rock, we wanted to at least talk about them so you knew. But with that being said, I have a goofy little tech that I think is fun. It's probably totally unplayable, so please don't think these are like wild, great concepts. These are just cards that I was like, huh, that's kind of fun. That'd be a fun little offside thing that you could catch, you know, your opponent off guard with. And one of those goofy little techs is Star Changer. You've probably never seen this card in your entire life, but it is a quick play spell that literally just says, target a monster on the field and either increase or decrease its level by 1. That's just so fun. It's a quick play. So you know, your opponent summons their second little 2 and you can just boop and then reduce it by 1 or increase it by 1, and then oh my god, they can't make gigantic Spright. They have to have an extender. That's crazy.
It actually has a really cute interaction as well. A lot of these Spright decks, ours included, are playing Pixie. Pixie bumps up a level 2, and in order to beat over some of these bigger, more threatening monsters, if you don't have a level 2, you only have a level 1.
Yeah, it's kind of a bummer. And I know you're all gonna be like, oh, well, I can just make Elf because it just requires 1 level 2. That's entirely correct. However, if you don't have extension, you're really just making Elf, and then what? You're gonna summon back one of the bodies you got and do what? What are you gonna do? So it just kind of forces your opponent to have extension instead of just putting 2 2s on the board and yeet combo.
While also having to deal with your already established board.
So it's just like a goofy little tech. I don't necessarily know that it's super playable, but I really like that it's a quick play spell, it's chainable, and it literally just does the thing. That's it. It's super straightforward. Feel free to look it up. It's a cool little card.
And speaking of quick play cards, another one that is in a lot of people's decks is Emergency Teleport. Now, I think everyone knows what cards you can grab off of Emergency Teleport. However, in case you're not aware of this one,
it's weird, and it's a rare in Grand Creators. Yep, it was just reprinted super recently, and it's Rise Bell the Star Adjuster. You've probably never read it. It may be in a bulk box somewhere, and that's okay. You might never use this card, but guess what? it kind of has a relevant effect, and you can Etelly this card.
For anyone who does not know what this card says, it's when this card is special summoned, you can target a card on the field and increase its level by 1.
Until the end phase.
You know what emergency teleport does?
Special summon.
Boom!
That's crazy. Again, I don't know if this is a very practical card, but I just thought this was kind of cute that you could Etelly it because my Spright deck is playing Etelly. A lot of Spright decks are playing Etelly. Why? It's a free body because you can summon out Gamma, but I also think this little guy kind of fun. You could side this in the mirror.
Yeah,
imagine
literally
how
one
funny
card in your
that
side
is.
deck. It's crazy.
Oh my god, that's so cute. You can just Etelly into it and like screw your opponent over in the mirror. That's kind of fun.
Also, good to note, if you are playing like the Punk deck or any other deck that utilizes the Punk engine or Etelly, this is a level 3 psychic monster, so it already pairs really well with your engine.
It also has the same attack and defense, so if you're playing a Gizmac deck, you can also summon this out. Look at us covering every deck,
Beautiful.
from top tier to Gizmex, baby. I got you. But those were my copium takes. I thought these were fun little cards. Again, I'm not saying these are going to break the meta and screw over Spright, but they're cards that I think would be really fun to consider. So just, I don't know, look them up, look through your bulk. Nothing hurts from a little bulk tech, you know?
The idea behind this is to try to give you guys a little bit more of an insight around cards that your opponent can't really see coming, right?
Yeah.
Like a lot of people know that, as we said earlier, hand traps. So a lot of people, as we said before, are not playing hand traps in the main deck. They're moving over to our going second, just board breakers. Everyone knows that Dark Ruler's in the main, so it's kind of easier for decks to play around. Another card we just wanted to talk about that is very popular and still seeing even more play now is Super Poly.
Super duper schmooper poly, baby. Oh, and why are people playing super duper schmooper poly war? Wow, that was really hard to say just now. Because guess what? Spright now plays into super poly because we have Galuwa, a great new big old goofy bird who for some reason isn't a win because I guess Flu needs to still be playable, but he's a really good card. Absolutely destroys an entire Spright board because they're just the same attribute, same type, and different names.
A nice little interaction that you may need to know about if you are playing Spright. A lot of people playing Toad in the standby phase are either summoning another copy of Swap Frog if
or
they're
summoning
not
Dupe Frog if they're the correct kind of player because you can't target it if it's Elf, and then you have to attack into it and then it searches. I don't know why people don't play my son. I don't know why people disrespect my son. Yes, you're playing into Super Poly, but guess what? Just let me summon my boys while they're playable. Jesus, I'm just trying to have fun, man.
But the real reason that this plays into Super Poly is because the interaction is battle phase, activate Super Poly away the Frog and the Toad, make Garuwa. Garuwa can attack in the battle phase over the Elf because it's 100 attack more. You don't get the Frog back, you don't get the Elf summon back, and then with one card you've cleared 3 bodies off the board. Main phase 2, you play the game with no interruption.
Well, technically 2 cards because you have to discard off of Super Poly, so make sure you have a card in hand. Alright, so we've kind of talked about cards that you've heard of before and cards that you've never heard of before that are in your bulk section, and the last card we're going to talk about is kind of like a little bit of copium. I'm not gonna lie, it's a card that you definitely probably haven't thought about ever in your entire life, but it's like a hand trap, but like a hand trap that doesn't feel entirely purposeless like the rest of the hand traps, but it's also a hand trap that you've probably never ever thought about for any reason. So we're gonna talk about it and try to at least convince you as to why it has potential, this format. And that card is Heavenly Zephyr Mirador. Now, because I know you've never read this card in your life, I am going to read it and then we're gonna talk about it because I want you to hear the words come out of my mouth and I want you to kind of think about it for a second before we just regurgitate stuff at you. So Mirador says, the activation and effect of this card's effects cannot be negated. If your opponent special summons a monster with 2,000 or more attack from the extra deck, you can special summon this card from your hand. If this card is special summoned from the hand, you can target a face-up opponent's monster that was special summoned from the extra deck. Neither player can activate that monster's effects while this monster is face-up on the field. You can only use each effect once per turn.
Boom!
That's kind of interesting. Why? Let's talk about it.
Well, there's a lot of monsters being special summoned from the extra deck right now that have more than 2,000 attack. One of which, I don't know, it's like a rank 2 aqua, water.
He hops a lot. He's got a little orange on his head. He's definitely getting banned sometime soon. It's totally awesome. Oh my god, he's got 2,200 attack. He does indeed special summon from the extra deck, and he's an Omni Negate. That's kind of a threat sometimes to decks. I don't know about you.
What's really cool about this card is it says that its effects and its activations cannot be negated. So once you plop this on the board, Toad can't negate this, and that Toad is kind of just a vanilla monster.
Yeah.
It also is really good to note that this thing has 2,600 defense, so it makes it a lot harder for these extra deck monsters to beat over.
Yeah, it's kind of nice, right?
Another really cool interaction with this card is with the Kit Kalos in the tier limit matchup. Even though it doesn't stop the effect on summon, the main effect that I think a lot of tier limit players care about is milling a bunch of cards. And you can't target itself and then do the milling if this card is face up and has already negated it. While this may not be the best hand trap trap in the game.
No.
I do think this has a lot of application and kind of puts your opponent between a rock and a hard place of like, have the extender or pass on a really suboptimal board.
I think this card is also just like really unexpected, obviously, because I don't think anyone's ever played this card. You know what? I'm gonna take it a step further because you know what? You always hear about content creators being like, oh, they're telling me this card's so good, but they won't even play it. I'm gonna make you a deal, kid. All right, next week, next episode of Let's Top Locals, I'm gonna play the card. I'm gonna play it. Okay, the episode will go up next week, but the next episode of Let's Top Locals, I'm gonna play this card and I'm gonna pray to God I can resolve it on camera, just so you can be like, damn, you know, not only did she tell me she was on the hard copium and was really on this card, but she also played it and resolved it. So you know what? Good for her. Even if I get my butt whooped, I want you to be like, you know what? She held us accountable. She held herself accountable. You're welcome.
This card actually has a lot of really cool implications as well. Not only going second is this just a free body, but if you're able to clear the card that this negated, this is just free link material. It's a level 7, so if you're playing, you know, level 1 tuners, you can just make Chaos Ruler with this. It's a dragon.
And honestly, what I really like about this card is it is not restrictive to your turn. Like, you know, the bad Nibiru card that came out, Kurikar or whatever. Yeah, this card is just if. It's just a whenever it happens, donkey.
Boom.
And not only that, but like you can't negate the effects of it or anything. So like when it summons, it activates. So like you're not doing jack, bro. He's like access code, but like tier 12.
And my favorite part about this card is that the secret rares are about $2, and if you really want to be bougie, the Starlights are only like 70.
Literally, the Starlights are like $70 or less. So I mean, if you're trying to like really flex on tier 12 hand traps, we got you. So if anything, I hope today we just help you get some really cool bargain deals on how to beat Spright. You don't have to play Ulti Mischief of the Yokai. You don't have to buy a Starlight Mirador. You can dig through your bulk and find some of these cards. And again, obviously we don't expect everyone to start playing these cards. These are just fun little things that we thought of that you might have also thought of but been insecure about thinking of. And with that being said, we're gonna talk about the Power of the Elements giveaway winner because I think you guys earned it at this point of the video. As always, we do box giveaways for every single set that comes out. Next week is Tactical Master, so make sure you come back. We'll be doing a box giveaway for that. But for today's winner of Power of the Elements getting a whole box shipped right to the door is Maddie Narrative. Your comments on the screen, babe. Please message us on Twitter, Discord, Instagram, ASAP. Give us your full name, address. Please let us know it's you so we can send your box your way. And with all that being said, team, I hope this was helpful for you. Please let us know in the comments what your cool texts for this format are when it comes to Spright or tier elements. I'm open to anything at this point. But this was a lot of fun. We hope it at least opened your thoughts to some cool ideas that aren't just what everyone else is doing. But thank you guys so much for watching this video. We love you. You matter. And please go check out all these videos over here, especially Let's Top Locals. And remember, next week I'm going to play Mirador in my deck and prove a point to all of you. Anyway, bye!